in times past, but it's been a little while since I've had an opportunity to come and speak to you and give a report. Of course, I've known Mark a long time. Mark and I go way back, and I'm thankful that he's working with you all here today with the church here in Tanner. You know, I'm from Hatton. Hatton and Tanner, you know, kind of always had these big rivals over the years in sports and stuff, but you know, one thing about Hatton and Tanner, it's kind of like farm country, you know, and so I'm just an old farm guy from Lawrence County. But I wanted to share with you during the class time, Brother Robert had called me, I guess, sometime back, and y'all have been very supportive of the Lord's work. It's the Lord's work. Whether it be in Tanner, whether it's in Hatton, whether it's in other places throughout the world, it's the Lord's work. So y'all been supportive of the Lord's work for some time now. In the former Soviet Union, basically in northern Russia. And so today, I'm going to be a little careful. A good brother had kind of, we had talked about that since this has been recorded. I might be a little, if you have any individual questions you'd like to ask afterwards, we'll do that kind of offline, but be happy to try to answer anything I can there. But I want to just give you a little bit of overview of what's been going on of late. You know, it's been some time since I've had an opportunity to go into the country because COVID happened in 20, and then, of course, we know there's an ongoing war now. And so it's not possible to get a religious visa to go into the country of Russia right now. Most of y'all has kept up with the news, you kind of know. But we do have brethren there that's continuing with the work there. We're able to, I will say this kind of carefully, we're able to take the support you all are giving and support from other congregations and through brethren in other countries. We're able to get those funds to them. It's been a pretty good challenge, but anybody wants that more defined, I'll be happy to discuss that afterwards. But that's probably all I'm going to say at this point. But I want to let you know that your support's going directly to the preaching of the gospel there, every penny. And so it's been a pretty good challenge. I tell you, it's been a pretty good challenge. But we're thankful that we've run across some brethren that's in some other countries that has some I guess you say, some financial institutions inside the country that allow their country to transfer funds in. So it's been a pretty good little bit challenge. But the money that you support goes to the Hatton congregation at Hatton, where I attend. The elders there oversee the financial support of the work. And so if you ever have any questions, they'll be happy to answer those too. So I'm going to try to go pretty quickly. There's a lot of things that's took place since I guess I've last been here, and I want to just kind of update you a little bit as quick as I can. Most of you, I think, the last time I was here, talked about the work in Syktyvkar. Syktyvkar, Russia is North Russia. It's about 800 miles due north of Moscow. Mark's been there a few times. His parents live there for some time. And a lot of Syktyvkar to me is kind of what I call the Jerusalem Church of North Russia as far as Russia goes, of modern time. We had an opportunity to go there in 1991. Demar Elam and I was on that trip together, and most of you know Demar, know of Demar. We was on that trip together in 91. Had an opportunity then in the fall of that year to be a part of the Lord's church being established in Syktyvkar. I hope I never forget it. I know I'm forgetting a few things. Some of y'all not having that problem probably, but if you ever start forgetting a little bit. But baptizing 95 people in a bathtub, I don't know if I ever forget that. I hope the Lord don't let me forget that, just because the conveniences that we have here and in other places for people to obey the gospel. But when this war started a couple years ago, this conflict, y'all, we got brethren on both sides. There's brethren in Russia and there's brethren in Ukraine. So today we're going to cover some of those brethren from both countries and just kind of let you a little bit know what's going on. But this is Leonid. Leonid and his wife Marina, their daughter Dasha, is in this picture. And when this war started a couple years ago, this is a statement. This is a statement. Can everybody hear me okay? Am I okay? This was a statement that I got from Marina. It says, "Thanks for your prayers. We pray a lot. I'm a little scared, brother, but remember what the Lord has promised. He would never give us more trials beyond our strength. God is good." And so there's some faithful Christians there. I will tell you this, if you will, Dasha, their daughter, has got a severe illness now. She's really sick. And I wish you would keep her in your prayers, if you will. Young, beautiful young lady. we kind of felt like she's our third daughter. We've got a couple of natural daughters, but we've kind of watched her grow up over the years. This is just a picture lately that I got from Leonid. One of his grandsons obeyed the gospel just lately there in Syktyvkar. This is probably one of the last big group pictures I've got. There's been other pictures. Of course, Demar was in this picture. This has been a little while back. But the reason I'm showing you this picture, y'all, that congregation's been established for 33 years now. This is the 33rd year. And I noticed y'all been here for almost 100. You know, a lot. That's awesome. The Lord's church is still here in Tanner, Alabama. But you know, even in 33 years is not a long period of time. So they've had some situations come up of late. Not only this war, but sometimes there's internal conflict. And aren't we thankful for elders? You got to have sound men, elders in the Lord's church to help resolve these things. So I want you to pray for the congregation there. I'm not showing this building for building purposes, but this is where the Lord's church has been meeting there in Syktyvkar. Since 2009, this building was able to help be involved in that building being erected. The preaching school that Larry, Mark's mom and dad was real instrumental, still involved in the preaching school there in Syktyvkar. Meets kind of on the top floor of that. Right now, I think they're doing a lot of online students, which is very helpful. But you know, one scripture we need to remind ourselves of, and I sent this just late to the brethren there. We are allowed to send some emails, not sure who reads them. I will say that. So you just, trust the Lord. And then we are able to use Telegram app. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but Telegram is an app that's supposed to be encrypted. In other words, supposed to be where people can't hack into it, but it seems like everything's getting hacked nowadays. But we do communicate through Telegram with a lot of the brethren, and by using Telegram, it's got a translator, so you can translate from their language to English, and they can do the same. So it's real helpful. But one of the scriptures that I sent to them of late, in Luke chapter 18, verse 8, Jesus Christ said these words: "When the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth?" And I kind of directed that question to them. I said, these little squabbles that you're having, is the Lord going to find faith in Syktyvkar, Russia when he returns? And I guess that's the same question we got to keep asking ourselves here in Tanner, Alabama. Is the Lord going to find faith here? It's our responsibility to make sure that continues. This is just a map that of congregations that we've been involved with over the years. This is not a great map. I apologize, but Gennady, the elder in Syktyvkar, before he passed, he kind of did this map, and it was kind of, I guess you'd say, a personal thing he did for me. Circle places where the Lord's church exists all over that country. It's a big country. I'm going to tell you just some of the small places now. This is another work that the support goes to. Is in Greva. It's a little village we'd call like Tanner, Tanner in Hatton, Alabama. One of the things that took place a few years ago, the opportunity to do evangelism openly got banned by their government. In other words, you're not going to advertise, you're going to have a gospel meeting, you're not going to stand on the street corner and give out Bibles like we did in the 90s. You're not going to. But the thought was, well, what about these remote areas? It's something about Acts chapter 1, verse 8, to the uttermost parts. So there are some places like the Tanners and Hattons. So we decided, well, look, we'll branch out from Syktyvkar and try our best to establish some congregations of the Lord's church away from Syktyvkar. Syktyvkar is a city of about 250,000. Greva's a farm village. Tanner, Hatton kind of place. So here you go. I got this picture from some of these brethren just of late. They through Telegram and some pictures. This is a small house that we was able to financially help them get. They're so excited to have this as their meeting place now. Wow. I think I showed this picture the last time, but I just couldn't help but show it again this time. This is Arkady, one of the members there. This was, of course, Leonid at the day he was baptized, but you know what he's doing? He's collecting water for his baptism out of that frozen river. Wow. But this young man's still been faithful to the Lord's church, Arcady. He's got on one of those sweatshirts. I guess the last trip I was able to go, we took some sweatshirts. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 13, for we have been baptized, we're all baptized into what? One body. One. It's about one body, the Lord's church. And so he had that old sweatshirt on. This is a picture. They're real thankful for this old building. They remodeled it themselves. It's really encouraging. They had some recent baptisms there. These two young ladies, Vika and Raisa, obeyed the gospel. Not a great picture. I hope y'all can see. I feel like I'm closer than y'all are. Y'all see okay? I hope. But I'm thankful for this because these old glasses work on me. But I will tell you this too. So the work in Vorkuta. So we in Greva. Now we're going to go to the top of the world. There's a city on top of the world at the end of the train track. I know Larry and Kay went there a few times. Mike Nix. Some of you remember Mike. Mike was a close brother to me, and I know to Mark, and a lot of people, you know. But that was kind of, I guess you say, Mike Nix's heartfelt place. He really loved that place. But I'm going to tell you something really encouraging. Even during the time of this war going on, Vorkuta is on fire. They've had almost 30 baptisms over the last 4 years. That's just hard to imagine. I'm talking about a place where the weather gets to be minus 60 in the dead of winter. We had an opportunity, and this is not a great picture, but I want to tell you this. The brother there, Misha, and I'll tell you more about him in a minute, he said, brother, we've outgrown this old apartment building. Is there any way y'all can help us get a bigger building? So we had an opportunity through a brother inside the country of Russia before he passed. He sold an apartment he had in the city of Ukta, and he said, do you want me to leave these funds inside the country? I said, absolutely. So we was able to take some of those funds, send on to Vorkuta, and they're now breaking these walls down. They said, we need more classrooms for these children. Wow. Here's just one of the most recent baptisms. Our tomb obeys the gospel. Misha, the preacher on the left, he graduated at the Syktyvkar Bible School. Remember I said Larry and Kay Little was really involved in that work, and we're thankful for that. So he's one of the graduates of the Syktyvkar Bible School. I went there several years and took Misha to the congregation. You know, the Lord's church is autonomous. We got to remember that. It's autonomous where we are. But I took him there and said, hey, would y'all like him to be the preacher? And so sure enough, they accepted him as their preacher. Now, a lot of baptisms going on. I had to show this picture too, especially about Mike. Mike Nix was all about orphan work. James chapter 1, verse 27, pure religion. You know, we all know that passage. But one thing is going on. This is an orphanage at the top of the world. And so now the Lord's church, by Misha being there involved, the Church of Christ, the Lord's church in Vorkuta, has had the opportunity to go in there again. They kind of stopped us for a period of time. I know Mike and I went there and visited a few times, but during this, for the last few years, they've kind of stopped. But of late, they've allowed the Lord's church to get back involved with these orphan children and bring them to class and teach them about Jesus Christ. So that's just a letter that they received there. I'm going to have to hurry. This is just a recent picture. I think I got this like 2 or 3 weeks ago of the congregation. This is just maybe another side view of that. So here's another little congregation out in Majalda that we had an opportunity to be a part of, us being established. Again, all this is kind of around the Syktyvkar area, but this is one of the ladies there obeying the gospel. This was I guess this was the last picture I had took with them. This was their 10-year anniversary. Wow. You know, it's just amazing that little churches like that continue to grow. I'm going to tell you some stuff now about the brethren in the Ukraine. I'm going to change gears here a little bit, so here we go. So at the beginning of the war in March of 2022, remember, y'all, that really this war began in 2014. Just remember this, and I'm going to try to go quickly. Well, on the left here, this young guy's name is Bogdan. Bogdan in 2014 was in the city of Gorlivka. Gorlivka, the church was meeting there, and the Gorlivka Church of Christ was meeting. Bear Valley, which is a Bible institute too that was teaching there, they were meeting in their facility on a particular day. When this war started, actually in 2014, the Russian separatists walked in, stuck machine guns in his face and other Christians' face, and said, look, y'all are an illegal church. They took the windows out of the building, threw their Bibles in the street, and said, for everyone you pick up, we're going to shoot you. So Gennady, one of the elders from Syktyvkar, was recruiting students to come to the Syktyvkar Bible School, and through one of his excursions, I guess, to Ukraine, he invited Bogdan just to come and visit Syktyvkar. So while I was this was back in 14, but I'm telling a story to get something here current. But in 2014, he came to Syktyvkar right after that conflict with the situation in Gorlovka, and he went with us to Majalda. And he said, brother, I want to go where the Lord's church don't exist and be a part of establishing a congregation of the Lord's church. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you ever thought about quitting, machine gun in your face, the Word of God, I'm going to shoot you if you pick it up. Well, this young man, along with a couple other young men, they went to the city of Lviv, Ukraine, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. We've been involved in supporting him, too, since the beginning of that work. But this is just a picture of Ukraine. Now, this is a little different picture, but I will tell you this real quick. There's a river right now, y'all, and I'm not going to get into a lot of stuff here, but there's a river that kind of divides the country. But right now, supposedly, that's what the Russian government wants, the east side. They said, we'll leave y'all the west side, but we want the east side. That's kind of what the brethren over there is thinking. So I'll be careful with that too. But Debbie and I had an opportunity in 1993 to go to Yanakiva, which is way over there in the far corner, probably that last red circle you see, and be a part of the Lord's church being established there in 93. But most of our work since 91 has been in Russia. But I wanted to let you know a little connection about the work going on in Ukraine. So March of 22, Brother Jeff Abrams, who's a preacher at Tuscumbia, some of you may know him, preacher at Tuscumbia, and I have been friends for some time, and we got to talking, and we said we got to go and try to help these brethren who's right in the middle of a war. Well, the war had just begun, I think on February the 26th. Well, this is that, I think the war started on Thursday. We got on a plane on Monday, the following Thursday, and went to Warsaw, Poland. We met a brother there in Warsaw, Poland. We said, can you get us to the border, the Ukrainian border? Somehow we got to get inside the country. We want to get inside the country and see what we can help our brethren there. So he was able to get us to the border. Y'all remember these pictures. This is what it looked like in 22. People, masses of people exiting that country. One of the people that we met, one of the first Christians that I met in 22 was Julia and her daughter Miriam. Look at this. I'm going to show you this. This was in Kharkov. This is exactly where I guess you say the war started when the army invaded. So these masses of people were trying to get on those trains. And I asked Julia, I said, Julia, how on earth did you and your daughter get on a train with that many people? And she looked at me, and I hope I never forget this one. She said it was the hands of God. So it was just masses of Christians, y'all, coming. Then they were fleeing the west, trying to get to the east. Well, Lviv, Ukraine, is kind of the furthest western city in the country now. Just imagine, it's the furthest western place. So they were getting on trains, coming to this place. And so our goal then was to try to help those that could leave. Let me just ask them. Raise your hand. If you're 18 to 60, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just imagine this. Any man that's between 18 and 60 could not leave the country. You got to stay. A lot of these men made a decision, I want my wife and kids to leave. So this was something. We had an opportunity, we was able to rent some buses. So a lot of these Christians that wanted their wives and children to leave the country got on those buses. Now that'll move you. Those are your brothers and sisters in Christ. So we had an opportunity to go ahead and get some of them relocated in the city of Warsaw, Poland. Well, you know, most of y'all remember during the World War, most of you know your history, during World War II, the Soviet Union annihilated Warsaw, Poland. It just blowed it off the map. So these people in Poland have a lot of heartfelt sympathy for the Ukrainian people. But let me tell you something that's really important. So a lot of people say, well, why did you locate them in Warsaw, Poland? Y'all, there's only 4 congregations of the Lord's Church in Poland. I didn't know that. 4 congregations of the Lord's Church. So when all these Christians started coming into Poland, I kind of believe if there is a good of this, the hand of God was that some evangelism could go on in that country from these strong Christians coming out of that country of Ukraine. I firmly believe that. And so that's kind of what this is talking about here. I won't go into all that. This is just one of those groups that made it out. We was able to get there. I think this is maybe the ones that was on the 3rd bus. They made it to Warsaw, Poland. We were able to rent this big house. This house here, we was able to raise enough funds to rent this house plus furnish the house so about 70 people could live in it. And that's been going on for almost going into the 3rd year now. We had to buy such things as bed. This is just a picture of those Christians there. So I'm giving you more current. So just of late, back in April, I had an opportunity to make another trip back into Warsaw, Poland, back into the Ukraine. And so in passing through Warsaw, y'all, they've already baptized 25 refugees there in that group in Warsaw. There's 1.5 million Ukrainians, refugee Ukrainians living in the city of Warsaw, Poland right now. So you say, Acts 8:4 what? And those that were scattered abroad went everywhere preaching word. What you got, this is a preacher. This is Yuri. Yuri has some health problems. There was some exceptions to some of the men. If you had health problems, you could leave the country. So Yuri was a preacher in one of those eastern side of Ukraine. So he now is in Warsaw and helping teach a lot of people. Yeah, I'm telling you, they every week are having groups like this. We was able to help rent a large room in the middle of Warsaw, Poland, kind of in down in the city, and they have anywhere from 80 to 100 people, non-Christians, showing up. I'm telling you. You know, in Acts, 1 Corinthians chapter 4, 2 Timothy chapter 4, Paul told the young man Timothy to do the work of evangelist. Well, this man right here is all about it. He's down in the middle of that group. This was the last trip I was on. He was there getting all these people's names so he could set up individual Bible studies with them. I'm telling you, there's a need for the Lord's church in Warsaw, Poland right now. A great need. I had an opportunity to just have a study with about 25 of them myself. It was just, you know, and I was passing through. This was just a group that was there on that particular day that I had the opportunity to have a class with. There's all kinds of little people. I call them little people, young people. This little girl's named Margot. On this last trip, I didn't really take a lot of things. You know, you're pretty limited on what you can put in your suitcase. Well, I took some Hershey candy bars. I thought, well, you know, they all times want to give you those Russian or Ukrainian chocolate. I thought, well, probably the best chocolate we got has got to be Hershey's. And so this is just simple stuff. But I gave that little girl a Hershey candy bar, and there she came and handed me one of them Ukrainian chocolate bars. Wow. Her little name's Margot. This was just another lady and her daughter, a single mom, who had to flee the country of Ukraine, living in that big house now. And she was they had written some letters of thanks from the children to those that had given. Little Margot wrote this letter, thank you for your love. Boy, I had to show that one. There in that big house, there wasn't a place to gather, so we thought, well, we'll just try to buy a big tent so they can have a gathering outside. We had bedrooms all in this house. They call it the tabernacle. I reckon that's probably scriptural, ain't it, brother? They call it the tabernacle. But it's amazing. They have Bible studies here. A lot of people has heard the gospel here and obeyed the gospel. They've invited a lot of non-Christians there, and this is what they call the tabernacle, just a big tent. This is one of the preachers there from the eastern side of the country, Bova. He said, we don't know what will happen tomorrow, but in times like this, we must trust God. Man. So, when I left Poland back in April, my goal was to go on into the Ukraine, so I was by myself on this trip, and I wasn't really sure what was going to take place because I got on you fly, you do all this flying, and this age is catching up with me. I don't know if it is you, Robert, but it's catching up on this traveling stuff. But so when you get to, you do all this flying, then you get on a bus, and you're going to ride a bus 9 hours. So we get to the I got looking at my schedule, and I was going to arrive in the middle of the night. Well, they under curfew in Lviv, Ukraine. The country's under curfew. Nobody can be in the streets. If you're in the streets, they put you in jail. So here we go. So Stas, this is one of the brothers there who just happened to, he's a preacher of the gospel, y'all. And he got drafted into the military. Already seen combat. Preacher of the gospel. He just sent me this text through this telegram, said, brother, I'm not scared of anybody. I'll show up and get you. And man, he showed up at 3 o'clock in the morning and carried me to his house, actually, and I spent the rest of the night at his house, and the next day he carried me where I need to go. But one of the things that we've tried to do inside the country, I firmly believe there's a lot of Christians that's coming from that eastern side to that western side that's lost everything they got. There's no going back home. One of the brothers told me, when I was, matter of fact, it was that brother that I just showed you, Bova. When I was in Warsaw, Poland, we were walking through a cemetery. And he looked at me and he said, I like to walk through the cemetery. Here in Poland, I thought, well, what significant is that to him? He said, Marlon, we'll never have an opportunity. My children will never have the opportunity to go back and walk to the cemeteries where we from. My. So we had an opportunity. One of the great needs was that, look, we got to try to help these brothers and sisters that don't have any place to live. So we was able to raise some money. We started this process in October 22, finally, through a lot of paperwork, a lot of transferring money back and forth. We was able to buy this old large house. It looks like about 50 people is going to be able to live in, Christians. There's a large room so the church can meet there too. And so that's part of that. This is just some pictures that some of the Christians shared with me of their homes. This was Bakhmut. Most of you probably, like I said, this is where the war started. But these are Christians' homes. Y'all, when I was there in April, the Ukrainian government passed a law that said that basically they had the opportunity to go into any shop or any public restaurant or anything and just start taking men. Well, I got a message about a month ago now, I guess it's been a month ago now, that we had, they were having, some of the brethren had decided to have a singing school, just singing practice. You know, we used to do that. Y'all may still do that here, but you know, they had like a singing practice thing up in one of the little mountain villages. Well, y'all, the military walked in and took 2 of our brethren. I'm talking about like just a month ago. And so that kind of stuff is that's been going on in Russia. But now it started going on in the Ukraine. Members of the Lord's church. On this trip, so I told myself on this trip, I thought, well, you know, I could go probably downtown somewhere and stay in a hotel. But then I got thinking about that. Well, I don't have an interpreter. Not really sure what's going to be going on. The best thing I can do is stay among those Christians living in that house. so I made a decision. It's something about among God's people, isn't it? Even though you may not can speak their language too good, I'm telling you, we've come a long way with these things. These things are good and bad. But one good thing about these things, Google Translate. You can about say anything in any language and it'll translate it for you. Even I picked up on how to figure that out. But so, man, what an experience. So I told myself, I said, I'm going to live among these Christians. These are the ones that showed those pictures, that gave me those pictures. Man. I don't know, I've always kind of joke about this, but this is Tatiana. And she may, you know, the Bible, you know, Jesus Christ said, when you go into these villages to eat what? What's set before you? Did you ever eat any borscht when you was over there? Pretty good stuff. especially in the dead of winter. But in the summertime, I call it slim fast. I don't know if y'all kind of know what I'm talking about, but it's cabbage soup. If that'd give you an idea, cabbage and beets. So just imagine eating that on a regular basis. I call it slim fast. But this good sister made that, and man, you're going to eat it. This is a touching story. Anatoly, the guy in the red, I'm not sure if I got that. Anatoly was not a Christian, he and his mother, when they were in that Bakhmut place. He said, we got down in the basement of our house and prayed to a God that we wasn't sure who he was, that he would protect us and save us. Kind of sounds like Cornelius. Said, we prayed, God, if you could just protect us. Well, they made their way to this city of Lviv. They ran into a childhood friend, the guy on the left, Sasha, who taught them the gospel. So their physical bodies were saved from the war. They got to Lviv. Now their spiritual bodies saved. Everybody deserves one chance to hear the gospel, one chance. And so that's just a little of their story. This is them telling that. While I was there, I said, look, what do y'all need? Because they didn't have refrigerators. They didn't have anything. And so this is a little Alicia and a little Timothy, just some little simple things that we was able to buy. Had to buy some washing machines, had to buy refrigerators, just various things to supply this house. I think these little children on the left, I was staying in the room next to them in this old house. And they gave up their room so I could have a bed. I felt like dirt. I said, look, I'll just sleep on the floor. And as I remember, some of them said, no, we want you to have our bed. And so just some little simple things that we was able to give them, Elisa, Timothy, Stefan, and Max, and then a little Lane on the right. One little young man said, I've dreamed for such a little thing. Man, just a little simple something. But y'all, it's all about sharing the gospel. These are some of those people now, our brothers and sisters, lost everything they got in the eastern part of the Ukraine. Now, actively working for the Lord's church in Lviv, Ukraine. Because there's a lot of people that can't leave the country, but they can get to the far western part of the country. And so by them getting there, the church there is on fire teaching these people. Let me give you an example. So Sasha, and this is Stas on the left, the preacher I told you there, every Sunday, y'all, they having 25 or 30 people walk into their assembly off the street and said, we're refugees here. Can y'all help us in any way? Well, guess what they do? They having a separate Bible class every Sunday. That's a good problem, isn't it? Can you imagine that? So they got people, can you imagine 25 people walking in here in Tanner, Alabama and saying, hey, we'd like to learn something about your God. Can you help us? Well, I believe this congregation here would get serious about it too. Y'all would have a special class. So that's happening every Sunday in Lviv, Ukraine right now. As a result of that, a lot of people's obeying the gospel. They asked me to preach this last time, and I just couldn't help but think, trust in God during the tough times. And so I went through the book of Habakkuk, and kind of got to that last part where he says, no matter what, God, I'm going to trust you no matter what. That's what Habakkuk said at the end of it. That I can keep climbing the tall mountains. This is the current, like I told y'all, this congregation was established almost 10 years now. They're averaging about close to 100 people now every Sunday, plus these refugees. This is just a picture. We was able to, when you have these get-togethers with young people, you got to have pizza. Something about these young people like pizza, I reckon. Some of us old people like it too, I reckon. But we was able to have a little fellowship afterwards. What was really remarkable to me, y'all, it kind of got me. This lady to the left, or where I say Tatiana, maybe to your right, she was from the city of Yanakiva. Well, that's where Debbie and I went in 93. Man, that just moved me. I thought, you never know, do you? God's hand. But on this particular day, the day of salvation, there were three that made the decision to obey the gospel while I was there on this trip, Vladimir and Tatiana and Valentina. I thought it was kind of neat, not that it really mattered, but Bogdan baptized Vladimir. Dima, who was the other brother that's real active in the work there, He baptized Tatiana, then Stas baptized Valentina. But let me tell you what was really remarkable here too. Granny, which is the lady in the glasses, Granny is the grandmother of Stas. She got on that bus 2 years ago. Man, what a tough lady, in her 80s. Went and lived in the Netherlands, and now said, look, I'm going back to Lviv. I'm going to live there no matter what. So she's come back to the city of Lviv. On this particular day, this Valentina lady was having some questions about obeying the gospel, but guess who was over there talking to her? Granny. Y'all, there's still opportunities to teach people. And so on their wall, in the place where they're meeting there, they got this passage that we all can quote, Mark 16:16. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. They said we want everybody to see this every time they walk in the door. This was kind of as I was about to leave. This was just a group again. This is Bogdan. Like I told you, we've been supporting him and his wife Elena for some time now. Elena also, she made a journey through the Netherlands, and she just said, Marlon, I just want to go back and live with Bogdan and raise my children and trust God no matter what. Whew. And so this is a little picture of them right before I left in April. I want to tell you a little bit about Stas. Stas, at the age of 13, he was baptized. At the age of 15, he became a preacher and baptized his older brother, Dima. 2021, he baptized Bogdan, the young man that we've been supporting for some time, in Gorlovka. Remember, Gorlovka is where they had the military walked in. 6 months later, he baptized his mother right before she died of cancer. He was invited to become the preacher in 2013 to Odessa. I got to mention Mike Nix one more time. In 1991, when the Lord allowed us from Midway, we were attending at Midway Church, the other side of Decatur. The elder said, look, we'd like for some of you men that God's opening the door. God keeps opening doors. When God was opening the door, said, there's a need for some of y'all to go. And I'm going to say this about Mike, and I know Mark can go there. Mike Nick was the most positive man I ever met. I don't know if I ever heard the man say a negative word in his life. I don't know if I ever remember that. Well, let me tell you, on this particular Sunday, I was sick at home, and the elders had met making this decision about whether or not some of us men were going to try to make this journey. Mike came to the house and he said, Marlon, I got some good news and I got some bad news. I thought, man, what is this? I have never heard this man say anything bad. He said, the good news is we're going. So Lord willing, this is in March of 91, so we're going. He said, the bad news is we're going to have to separate when we get to Moscow. Me and Harold Pirtle are going to get on a train, and we're going to go 32 hours south to a place called Odessa, Ukraine. That's giving me chill bump. Odessa, Ukraine. And you and a man named Dimar Elam are going to get on a train and ride 28 hours to a place called Syktyvkar, Russia. Nobody knew anything about none of these places. Mike Nix and Harold Pirtle went to Odessa, Ukraine in 1991. Don't forget that. The Lord's church is the most important thing. Finish this story. He baptized his granny, that older lady, who had baptized him in the Orthodox faith at a younger age. She come to the knowledge of truth. He baptized his current wife. In 2015, like I said, just for the word team, him, Bogdan, and Dima, and their wives said, look, we're going to go and establish the Lord's church where it don't exist. That kind of sounds like the Apostle Paul in Romans 15, verse 20, where he says, I go and preach where Jesus Christ's name has not been named. Right? And then 22, then he got drafted in the army, just like I showed you. But I'm going to tell you something right here. When I got ready to leave on this trip, He come into that old house that we were staying in. He said, I got something I want to talk to you in private, brother. So we went to a private room. He said, I got something here I want to give you. That's the bars off his uniform. How you take that? Let me tell you just a little bit more. So as I was getting on that bus, about to come back to Warsaw, then come on home, he and his wife said, we want to take you to the bus station. I'd ask him, I said, well, you know, I noticed, Stas, that Ann, your wife, and your children in 22 never got on a bus to leave the country. Never got on a bus. I said, why is that? And here's what he told me. He said, Ann and I made a decision. Even if it was risking our lives and our children's lives, we're going to stay in the country and do what we can for the Lord's church. That's courage. We're going to close here. And thank y'all. 1 John chapter 3, verse 16 through 18. John writes these words. We know love because he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay our lives down for the brethren. But whoever has this world's goods and sees his brother in need and shuts up his heart from him, how does the love of God abide in him? Let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. Thank you again for your attention, the opportunity to be here. If you want to cut that, and if anybody's got a question, I might answer a question. I'm not sure how y'all, we might have a minute or two if anybody's got